We were fairly certain that Hugh Jackman had hung up his claws for good, but apparently there was one way to get him out of retirement: the allure of Ryan Reynolds and the promise of a paycheck. It's Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine. Written by Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, and Shawn Levy. Directed by Shawn Levy. Starring Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin, and Matthew Macfayden. And for a complete cast listing, you could go to the link in our show notes, and you're probably going to want to do that because this movie is packed to the brim with cameos. I am not here alone. I am here with
Chioke I'anson.
Chioke I'anson. Okay, Deadpool and Wolverine is the third of the Deadpool trilogy, and it details the adventures of Deadpool teaming up with Wolverine to accomplish a mission. We're going to do our best not to have spoilers in this movie, although I would argue that it's pretty tough to spoil this movie except to say who are the cameos in this movie. And we'll get into why I think that's the case here in a bit. But let's just start off right off the top. What did you think of this movie?
You know how in order to make like a good meal, you need a little bit of butter?
Okay. I already know what your criticism is based just from that, and I picked the right person. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
This movie is 3 sticks of butter for your dinner. So it's however good you think 3 sticks of... Matter of fact, forget dinner. This movie is being forced to eat 3 sticks of butter.
That is accurate. I was sitting here watching this movie, and by the time about halfway through, because I have some specific criticisms, but I realized while I'm watching it, because I realized I was getting tired of listening to Ryan Reynolds talk, I was like, I just couldn't take it anymore. I was sitting there watching it, and I realized, oh, this movie is doing the same thing that Thor: Love and Thunder did, which was take Taika Waititi and just spread it all over the film. And that's only one of its problems. I think another big problem is that this movie, like, it has 5 writers, which means it does not have a plot. They Frankenstein this movie together out of 8 different films. They put so much pressure on this movie to do several different things. They wanted to connect the Marvel universe. They wanted to, in some ways, reference and maybe reboot the X-Men Now universe, and they even touch on some other universes, which I can't say because this movie is all cameos.
Yeah, it's too much. It's all too much. And the thing that I needed it to do the most, it couldn't accomplish. So if you recall, one of the criticisms of Deadpool 2, which I do understand, was that Morena Baccarin's character was effectively fridged. Like, so she was dead, but she was still the emotional core of the film. And, okay, well, it's a good criticism, but it did work, I think, cinematically, right? The problem here is that there's supposed to be this emotional core, but it's almost entirely missing. And when it's present, it doesn't matter because it's completely overrun by the fourth wall breaking and the jokes and the violence. And so then when there is this like kind of passionate, kind of real moment, it just rings hollow every time. And this ends up being true for Deadpool, of course, but it also ends up being true for Wolverine. And I will say that Logan was a really good movie.
It was really good. Just a quick aside, I'm going to let you finish. Just a quick aside, this movie starts off by making a joke that then ends up not being a joke, and it really made me upset because it starts off by saying, hey, you think we're going to do this thing? We're not going to do this thing. Just kidding, we're going to do this thing. And it was a wink to the audience, and then they actually did the thing I did not want them to do.
Yeah, the movie suffers from should not exist syndrome.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's like Terminator Salvation or whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, this is a movie that shouldn't exist. And I would say that having Hugh Jackman come back
for this
to play Wolverine feels bad.
I agree. I think there were several times in this movie where I kept wondering why it existed. And I'm like, well, obviously they're doing all this work because it's going to be some sort of linchpin and connector to the larger universes that it draws from and then also like connects to. And my thing is to drag him out and put the claws back on him for this, to drag him out and put the claws back on him for him to just do what he did in this film. I think this movie depends on us having read the comic books, wanting some fan service, wanting to see all the things that they're doing. It's very Snakes on a Plane-ish, and that like the crowdsourcing is what makes Snakes on a Plane, making all these suggestions. I hope this is in the movie. And in this one, Marvel bent to the will of the fans and just made a movie that is entirely fan service. And you're right, it does ring hollow at the times in which it tries to be emotional. It's completely unearned. At the times in which there are team ups that I would have appreciated, it's completely unearned because I'm like, why do I care about this? I should care about what's happening in front of me. I should care about these characters. I should care about these connections, but I don't, and you haven't done the work to actually make me care about it.
Yeah, I think that their thesis was that because it was a Deadpool movie, they could build this protective dome of irony that would enable them to have the kinds of like cameos and like events that in another movie we would fully hate, but that we would excuse or accept because it was a Deadpool film. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that I saw, you know what it is? It's like I get like a little jolt. It's like any of these characters, when they popped up on the screen, I was like, oh, they're here, right? And I got like a little jolt, and then I immediately felt like empty afterward. I have to imagine it's what drugs feel like.
I'm sure certain drugs feel that way. I would say that it's not only that. At some point when watching this movie, I realized for the first two Deadpools, they did a very good job of saying, we're taking Deadpool seriously. This is who the person is, all of that. Whereas in this one, it felt much like they were doing what they did in X-Men Wolverine Origins, where they throw in this Deadpool character. It is very, very much half-baked, and it's not enjoyable at all. And they make fun of that character over and over again in the other Deadpool movies. But in this one, I'm like, no, you guys are like now in a place where you've overdone this thing. You've overindulged. And I think now you've become a victim of kind of your own success in a lot of ways. Because we should be walking out here being like, oh my God, they did it. And there's several times in which this movie, they said, hey, they turned to the camera and said, hey, that thing you want, we're going to do it right now. And I'm like, but don't do that to me. I don't want to see it like that. I want y'all to take it seriously. I want you to actually give me the thing I'm looking for, but like do it in a way when Cap picks up the hammer. By the time he picks up that hammer, we are all like, yeah, we weren't expecting it. And they just were like, we want to give this to you out of nowhere. We didn't expect it. We saw a hint of it like 4 movies before that. And all of a sudden it happens. Whereas in this one, they're just saying, nah, yeah, shut up and eat it. Shut up and take it. Yeah, just eat it. Eat the slop, you filthy pig. That's what I feel like this movie is doing to me. And I hate that. I wish it wasn't.
Yeah, I wonder if anything could have fixed it. Like, could it have been edited? I mean, I imagine you would have just had to remove stuff. Things would have just had to go. You know what I mean?
The movie doesn't have a plot, really.
Oh no, the movie doesn't have a plot. It's definitely like an A to B type story, and that's why it would have been so important for it to have something emotional happening, and it just doesn't. And I mean, honestly, like after seeing the film, I feel diminished.
I agree. I think that's accurate. I feel I definitely left this, and I was kind of getting mad at people who were in the theater with us that were like saying it was awesome. And I'm just like, no, they tricked you into thinking that because you laughed. I laughed. You laughed. There was stuff to laugh at. They also filled it from left to beginning to end with all these needle drops and songs that really activate like the oxytocin in your brain that makes you say, oh, this is good. And I enjoyed them. But if we're being honest, like it just didn't do enough to actually make it a film that is like worth watching over and over again, you know, like, and especially when you realize how much talking is in the movie and how much of the action is not served to do really anything. Like you don't really get the sense of the stakes or the world or any of that stuff. But they just like they sat here and said, you know, yeah, but it's a Deadpool movie with Wolverine. So what are you going to not watch this? And I feel like I'm going to be in fights with people about saying like whether it's good or not. I'm like, you know, this is not a good movie.
Oh, I do not want to go back to my nerd group chat and talk about this movie at all. Like, it's not going to go well.
No.
And, I mean, it's honestly, this whole film is a thesis on, like, capitalism and culture. Because Logan should have been Hugh Jackman's last Wolverine appearance. But capitalism is like, you know what, though? We could probably make some more money if you do this. And,
they winked at it.
Right? Yeah. And culture is like, people actually love this slop, and they don't really care that Logan was a thing, and they don't think that movie should have integrity, or like that doesn't matter to them, and they're gonna go see it. And so actually, if you think about it, they really deserve what we're about to give them, if you really think about it. Like, that's what's happening. Like, it resound, like the echo in its hollowness cannot be overcome. Like, this is arguably, as the cameos in this film were as meaningless as in a DC film.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, but really, like, I think that what's happened, if we look back at the 20-something years of the MCU movies, is that they started good, and there were in fact like some really great films, but they've moved us all entirely away from the very notion of what a good film is.
Agreed.
And now we're suffering because all the other films aren't doing that well at the box office, and people don't even know how to watch a film that could be like good in quality or whatever. But like, honestly, people, maybe don't see this film, get a Mubi subscription and just watch some films on there.
I agree. I think there's a lot of other. As a matter of fact, me and JC Howard talk about this on the show. The fact that, like, air quote, the movies are back, and I feel like this is the opposite of that. You know what I mean? Like, this is an example of, and actually maybe it's not the opposite. It's adjacent to it, because it also proves that movies are back and they can still make big bombastic things like this. And I think that people are going to defend this movie. They're going to know it's bad, and they're going to defend this movie by just saying, well, it's supposed to be fun. And I'm like, well, the first two were also a lot of fun, but they also accomplished a lot. This one did not. So I'm saying, if you're going to say the third Deadpool movies are just supposed to be fun, then I would say I had plenty of fun at the first two, but they still did something. I had fun at Logan, but it still did something. It still was a movie with heart. This movie has all of the benefits of those other three fantastic movies behind it, and it still like fails to be the sum of its whole. With all of that being said, you know, here on Leave It at Theater, we rate movies out of 5 stars. 5 being you loved it, 1 being this movie was trash, 5 being perfect, 4 being I really liked it, 3 being would see it again, 2 being did not like it. This is a hard one for me to rate.
Yeah, this is really difficult, because if we just put it on mute, and if I also didn't know these characters, and maybe I didn't know the references in the fourth wall breaking, like if I didn't understand any of that, I'd be like, wow, this movie is like really exciting to watch. Also, like, there's a ton of jokes. There's things to laugh at. There's like, you know, sight gags. There's a lot of stuff like that. But the movie is also just like fully conceptually bankrupt, I would say. And so those are two extremes. Oh, well, so I guess we have to just put it in the dead center. Oh, this is a dead center movie.
What do you give it?
2.5 stars.
It's tough, because like spiritually 3 is typically the dead center, but I also think that it's hard for me to say that this is a 2-star movie, because there's still enough of this movie
No,
to
Ronald, it's the dead center.
I hear you, but go ahead.
No, it's the dead center. It is literally, it's the lifeless. It's like it's like that point in the middle where there is no life. You know what I mean?
I get it. I think I agree with the 2.5 rating because I don't think it's not a 2. I did not like it. I laughed and there was some parts of it that I enjoyed, but I don't want to see it again. But I also think that like calling it the dead center and calling it right down middle of the road is enough to say to people like, if you want to go see it, go see it. But I got to be honest with you, I would wait for this one to come on Disney Plus and just watch it on your couch because there's no need for you to see this in a theater and fund the reason why they're going to keep making Marvel films like this.
Yeah, no, I don't want to support this movie.
I don't want to support it either. I had to pay for tickets. Normally I do press screenings, but Disney was so tight-lipped, they didn't want to let any of the secrets out. So because I'm not a high enough certified critic, I wasn't able to get in. And I'm sure, and I would have done this for Pop Culture Happy Hour, but they couldn't even certify me to get in for the NPR show. So I'm saying that to say I would have said this on NPR. I would have been like, I don't know about this one, fam. And maybe I would have been the only one. We'll hear their review tomorrow and we'll know. But I'm saying, like, as a guy standing on the street with you, if anyone said I got to go see it, I'd be like, I'd save my money if I were you.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. We don't want there to be more movies like this. If you see it, think about what you'll become. Oh, here's like an impression of me encountering the cameos in this movie. Oh, what? Wait, what? Why? Like, that's what happened. Like, multiple times.
I turned to you at one point in the movie and said, what is this movie? I don't understand. Like there's times in there where there's good cameos, and there's one in particular that was making me laugh a lot based on there's a dialect that's happening that is very funny, and the actor that they chose is also very funny in it, which is fine. But again, like this, I mean, come on, man. Like we just watched X-Men 97. I don't know if you watched X-Men 97. I watched X-Men 97. I'm like, and again, you actually said this. You said the Marvel Cinematic Universe is over, and you said this after watching the second Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or whatever. And I remember you said that, and I remember I didn't understand. You started to point out like they can make good movies like this, and this is animated. Then they came out with Mutant Madness from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so we know that they're able. And then they came out with X-Men 97, so we know that you're able to do good stories and take them serious. But you're not even promoting the things that are actually doing that thing, except to say, "Oh my God, it's a visual wonder." It's Spider-Man. I'm like, no, this is just a good movie. It is a visual wonder, but it's also a good movie. So don't relegate it to animated film as if it's not like better than most of the things the MCU has been putting out. And this does not make me have faith in the new Captain America movie, which the preview I saw. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. Is this going to be trash? Because y'all are trash now.
I think that the simple fact is that Marvel's live action movies can't be trusted. I think there was a time when they
were the gold standard, man.
Yeah, and you could be like, okay, well, this is whatever happens, this is going to be a lot of fun. But I think that now they can't be trusted, and you have to walk into them with this trepidation. And I think that for me, that trepidation, what it really means is like, wait till it gets on streaming, and then just watch it there, and then you'll know it'll be fine.
I'll rarely regret. I don't think I've ever regretted watching a movie on streaming and be like, dang, I wish I would have saw this in the theater, or for that to be strong enough for me to not say, oh, I just enjoyed a really good movie on my couch. So I'm saying, like, for most Marvel movies, they are not must-see events anymore. So if you want to watch them on your couch, you can and you should, to be honest. It is a lot of money to go to the movies. These were $13 a ticket. It was $26, and we didn't even get snacks. So, like, not to mention the gas to get here, all of that stuff. You like neglected parenthood. You're supposed to pick up your child. Like, what are we doing?
I'm not even sure where she is right now.
And we did that all to see a Deadpool movie that we thought was going to be good. We thought the sacrifice was worth it, Amaya. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, kid. I'm coming to get you.
All right. With that, Leave It in Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. I mixed this episode, and I think I'm getting a little bit better. However, I could still use your help in helping to grow the show. It is a labor of love. I'm doing an episode every week. You saw I missed some episodes, especially after the death of my mom. Sometimes movies aren't coming out every week, so it's a little hard to keep up sometimes, but I want to keep doing it, and I want to do more. When you contribute to Patreon, you give me the ability to do more for you. So please join the Patreon. It's patreon.com youtube.com/leavingthetheater, or you can go to the link in our show notes. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Deadpool and Wolverine or Chioke I'anson, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studios shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios and on Twitter at OhitsBigRon Stu. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being on the show.
And you'll find an article on Ronald Young Jr. in VCU magazine. His alum has finally recognized his success.
It took long enough, but yes, if you are a VCU alum, you listen to this, you probably have VCU magazine. I am in it, and I'm very excited. Chioke interviewed me. Very excited about that. And thanks again for being on the show.
No problem.
And they're putting pressure on it to do several. Oh, they smoking weed right over there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's the thing.
Oh, hold on. Let me set you up because I cut myself off.